All right, everybody, what is going on? Good morning. Hump Day, Wednesday. We are closing in on the preseason. Can't wait. But before we get there, we've got another little milestone on the road from the offseason to the season. The Seattle Seahawks, and they did this yesterday, but I didn't have the opportunity to talk about it. The Seahawks released their first unofficial depth chart of the season. So, look, I don't think any of this is binding. I don't even know how much of this is meaningful, but it is the first time this team has done anything to show us how they might feel about where players sit in the pecking order and who's likely to make the team. So we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of a look here. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks, and let's try to kind of process what they've put in front of us here. So let's just go down in order. And by the way, I don't really like how this depth chart orders things, but you look at wide receiver, they've got two starters, Cup and JSN. Then you've got behind those two guys, because the idea is this is being read from left to right and then up to down. So you've got behind Cooper Cup, you've got Rashid Shaheed, and then behind JSN, you had Torrey Horton. And then you've got Jake Bobo, and then you've got Cody White. And then I believe the way that you read this is that you then go down to the next column, or no, excuse me, row, and then continue to go left to right. So if this is a meaningful order of the players, that would mean that Jake Bobo and Cody White are currently the back end receivers on the depth chart. And you've got Irvin Charles, Montori Foster Jr., Rashad Rochelle, Ricky White, and Emmanuel Henderson Jr. as the guys being left out. So in that case, that could be true, right? Like, I don't know if they're going to use Shaheed for as many snaps as they're going to use Cup, just because Shaheed is also a special teamer and Cup is a better blocker. So maybe they still view Cup as being their second receiver, even if he won't be their second leading receiver in stats. But it could just also be a reflection of where things were in terms of their perception going into camp. So it's kind of tricky to know for sure if this is how they're actually evaluating things at the moment, but it's the only thing they've given us. So offensive line, Cross, Zabel, Sundell, Bradford, Lucas. So that is certainly the starting offensive line as we know it. The backup group was interesting to me because I kind of feel like that could go a few ways. Josh Jones, backup left tackle. Richmond is listed as the backup at left guard. So maybe they're feeling like he's progressed to the point where he's the superior backup option on the offensive line there. That would be interesting because I've always kind of thought that Cable Do was the guy they liked more. Oluwatimi listed as the backup center still. Christian Haynes backup right guard, so they're holding out on that one. Bobby Hart is your backup right tackle. I feel like that doesn't stand, but for the moment he is listed ahead of Amari Kite. And the one notable thing, well, I don't want to say the only notable thing, but Bo Stevens, still third string behind Christian Haynes. Again, I don't know if that's just because he's a rookie and they always put rookies pretty far back. But for the moment, that is where they have left him. Bryce Cabledew is the third string left guard behind Richmond, by the way. So that's also kind of notable because I thought that Cabledew would be ahead of Richmond at this point. And Amari Kite's the backup left tackle. All right, guys, let's take a quick break here to talk a little bit about Prize Picks, currently the #1 sports pick app in America. The app is very easy to use. Check it out to my left here. You can do player picks, where you just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Or you can pick teams, where you pick winners, spread, or total on any game or fight. The app is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. Right now, they have a great offer. You can play your first $5 lineup and get $150 in lineups if you win. All you have to do is use code HMA when you sign up. It's a brand new offer, best time possible to get on the app. So get on over there and get to winning that first lineup. So remember, Prize Picks, code HMA. Download the app today and remember to always gamble responsibly. So tight end, you've got AJ Barner, of course, in the first spot, but then they go Eric Saubert and then Elijah Arroyo. So as of right now, on this chart at least, Arroyo is still considered the third string tight end and Saubert's ahead of him. I would hope that doesn't last, especially at this point. And with the camp that I've heard Arroyo having, I'd be pretty surprised if he didn't elevate to the second spot before the season started. But for the moment, for whatever reason, they're putting him back there. And then you've got Collar up and you've got Vanette behind him as your fourth and your fifth. And let's see here. What else? What else? We got quarterback, Darnold, Locke still in second, Milroe still in third. So that hierarchy has been maintained. I feel like that's probably going to stay that way, but it is something that could pivot. We also got Robbie Oots as the starting fullback. Rest in peace on that. So right now, Brady Russell backs him up, and they do have Brock Lampy on here behind Brady Russell. Personally, I'm hoping that Brock Lamp could make some waves here and get the job at this point because I feel like Brady Russell's a tight end, and I feel like the fullback thing was always kind of an awkward fit. All right, running back, very interesting here if there's anything to glean from this. George Halani, starter, backing him up was Jadarian Price. And Price was actually one of just a few rookies who was a second stringer on this list, but he is a second stringer. So when you take a look at that, you wonder if maybe that's because Price had missed some practice time lately. Is that just because one guy's a veteran and the other guy's a rookie, and the veteran's always going to get immediate credence there, and then they'll make a decision later after seeing them practice for a few weeks? Sorry about that. But yeah, that's interesting. And then you got Emmanuel Wilson in third string, then you got Jacardia Wright, then you got Velez Jones Jr. Makes sense. And they also have TJ Harden and Justin Jones. And those are two guys who are just hanging around for a little bit while we try to resolve the situation with Price. And Charbonnet is also listed as somebody that's currently injured, but is nevertheless on the team. I think the parentheses are for people who are on the PUP specifically. Defense. One interesting thing right up front would be Jaron Reed. He's listed as a defensive end now instead of the defensive tackle or nose tackle. And understand that the Seahawks run a little bit of an unconventional defense in the sense that they almost always only have the one tackle and the one nose tackle on the field at the same time. So the distinction isn't super meaningful, but it is notable that in order to get these three guys at the top of the depth chart, Williams, Murphy, and Reed, they bumped Reed over to defensive end, which I believe is new from last year. And then they still got Murphy at nose, which, I mean, with how well things went last year, I can't knock this team for continuing to play Murphy at nose. There's another part of me that wants to unleash him as a pass rusher though, so if that's meaningful, then the road to double-digit sacks for Murphy got a little bit harder. Riley Mills, first backup behind Leonard at defensive tackle. Nose tackle backup is Peely. And you still got Mike Morris hanging around as the second string defensive end behind Jaron Reed. And I don't think there's a lot going on here with the third stringers, but here they are. Bubba Thomas and J.R. Singleton at the defensive tackle spots. Uso Suamalo and Devin Eastern at the nose tackle spots. Some people think Eastern could maybe push Peely, but Eastern missed a lot of time with injury already, so that's probably going to be a difficult thing for him to overcome. Also got Aiden Hubbard here. They're listing him, interestingly enough, because I thought Hubbard was an edge, but they're listing him with Jaron Reed and Mike Morris. And I know technically this is defensive end, but we're talking about a Jaron Reed or a Mike Morris type of defensive end, not an Aiden Hubbard end. So I don't know if they meant anything by that, but that's your third string on the defensive line. Edge rusher, they lead with D-Law and Nwosu. D-Law's the rush linebacker. Nwosu's the, not weak side, strong side linebacker. But really, in this defense, they're edge rushers. And behind Lawrence is Hall, and behind Nwosu is Fowler. So as of right now, that seems to be how they're looking at things. I don't think there's going to be a big snaps advantage for any one player here. Like the guy that you rode pretty hard last year was DeMarcus Lawrence, and he's a year older now, and probably in the last year of his career. So you're probably going to pull up a little bit. And then you've got Uchenna Nwosu, who I think at this point in his career can still be a good run defender. So having him on early downs also makes sense. So it's a pretty good setup. And then behind him, the first guy they have is Jared Ivey. So maybe that's the guy they prefer right now of that group. And then you've got Connor O'Toole. Then you've got Jamie Sheriff. Then you've got Jalen Gaines. So if that is the order, the fifth edge advantage currently goes to, Jared Ivey, I guess, based on reading this chart. Inside linebacker, Ernest and Drake leading it off, of course. O'Connell backing up at middle. Tyrese Knight backing up at weak side, but I think we all know that Tyrese will probably back up both spots, and he'll come on when needed for either of those two. But in front of him, Jones and Thomas. And then you've got Chris Paul Jr. and Chaz Surratt. So, again, interesting, right? A lot of people have wondered if maybe this is the year that Pat O'Connell gets replaced by somebody who's a little bit more athletic, which Chaz Surratt and Chris Paul most certainly are. But for the moment, looks like O'Connell has them both beat. Personally, I'd like to be able to go to a little bit of a younger and more high upside backup linebacker other than O'Connell, but they got to earn it. Okay, secondary. Again, basically what you would expect. Cornerback, Witherspoon, Job starting. And the top backup to Witherspoon is Nehemiah Pritchett right now. Now, we have been told that Pritchett has had a pretty good camp, so it's not shocking if he's been elevated. And maybe this doesn't even really count as elevated, because after Witherspoon, I'm sorry, after Witherspoon, you have Pritchett, and then you have Noah Igbenogany, who is pretty much a pure nickel corner. I don't think this team should be looking to try to play him anywhere else. So he's not even really in the same lane as a Josh Jobe. Then you've got Shamar Jean-Charles, and then you've got Julian Neal. So again, if you're trying to read it in order, I don't know if that actually means what it looks like it means, because what it looks like it means is that they view Julian Neal as behind Shamar Jean-Charles. Although in fairness, Julian Neal was dinged up recently, so maybe he actually is. So after that, you've got Michael Dansby and Andre Fuller and Jordan Washington filling out the back end there. You can see that, Jean-Charles is a guy who I would hope we could do better than on some level, either with Neal or Dansby, or honestly, maybe Dansby and Fuller. But everyone else is on the table, and I've heard good things about Igbenogany, so he might be sticking around too. Safety Okada is still listed as the starting safety at one spot. We know about Julian Love, but Ty Okada is currently listed as the starter over Bud Clark, who is backing him up. And then AJ Finley's behind Julian Love for the moment. But I think we all understand that they're waiting for Nicky Manwari to be back. Even though he doesn't really play safety, they would list him there. And that would probably bump AJ Finley off the second string. And behind Clark, you've got D'Anthony Bell, who, another guy I've heard good things about. Hopefully there's room for him. And behind AJ Finley, you have Rodney Thomas the second. I don't know. I'd kind of flip that. It makes more sense to me that Thomas is more likely to make the team than Finley. But again, we're just assuming that there's some rhyme or reason to this. And then Eamon Warrior's listed here, and Maxon Hook is the fourth string safety behind Okada, Clark, and Bell. So nothing too shocking, nothing too surprising over here. You also have all your special team stuff. They do list Torrey Horton as the kick returner ahead of Shaheed. Don't know if that means anything or not. Obviously, Shaheed's one of the best in the world at it, but you do want to protect him for the offense because he's really valuable there too. But other than that, that's really about it. And only time will tell if this stuff ends up being meaningful. They could have just put things on in a general order, and they're going to let the play speak for itself over the next few weeks. Or maybe this is actually how they see things going into camp. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Everyone have a good day.